know what she said. She might just change your life.
And it is Friday, and we know that it's noon somewhere. In fact, it's cocktail hour somewhere for sure, Sharon.
Cocktail hour here.
And it's cocktail hour here. I mean, some people have dance party Fridays, and I think we should institute something for Fridays here. You know, I mean, some sort of a taste testing thing.
I'm all over it.
I'm
all over it.
We are so happy to be joined today by Jenna Cormier, a mixologist and bartender. What exactly is a mixologist?
Is
that a fancy name for a bartender?
It's a dirty word.
It's a dirty word?
Nobody likes that word. I mean,
You put a dirty word on my thing here, Christine.
Are you talking about a dirty martini word?
No, I mean, it's kind of a word that the bartenders have been painted with over the last few years when it comes to creating cocktails or building cocktail programs, maybe putting together menus, that type of thing. But it's sort of given some bartenders a little too much entitlement. I find that word has been thrown around a little too much, especially with the recent popularity in becoming a chef as a profession, and using that in comparison to being a bartender for a profession. And somebody was looking for a word to label it with, and I think that's what kind of
mixologist.
Stuck.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, at the end of the day, you're tending bar.
Is that sort of like a sanitation engineer? I loved that when they came out with that. I mean, domestic goddess, I have no problem
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that one, but I mean, it's sort of, but it actually, you know, it actually is appropriate. It's in
most cases, yeah.
You know, I mean, you're mixing up stuff, and a great bartender can be very innovative and say, well, you know, I like this drink, but I don't like, well, what do you like? Well, I like sour, and I like, okay, well, how about this, and I'll add a bit of that, and I'll add a bit of this, and it really is an art.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has a lot to do with being extremely hospitable as well. You really need to be able to gauge your guest and really decipher what type of experience they're looking for and what they're looking for in a drink. And some of the best bartenders in the world, I would go as far as saying their palates are absolutely incredible. They're able to sort of mix and match and put certain things together and present them in a way that they're very approachable.
Well, it is like cooking then, because it's blending things that may not seem at first glance to go together, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
So what I always wonder when I talk to a bartender and I'm asking for something, because I'm not sure, I don't want to do the same old, you know, white wine or Prosecco, which I do all the time, but I'm looking for something, I don't know, I feel like trying something new. But if you are, let's say, that particular bartender or mixologist, my new term, let's say you don't like sweet drinks, or you don't like, but you're still able, it's quite an art to still be able to come up with something for somebody who likes something other than what you like. I mean, I have a sweet tooth, for example, so I could tell you all about great desserts.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have a sweet tooth, I think I would find it hard to say, I'd say, well, I don't like any of them, so I don't know, I can't recommend.
Yeah, and it becomes tough at times to separate yourself from what a guest wants or what a guest needs.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, a lot of people will try to put their preferences onto people.
But you don't do that.
No, you're sort of missing the point in my mind if that's what you're constantly doing is giving your choices to people and telling them what they want instead of listening to what they want. There's a big difference there.
So, since we're talking about booze, because that's the underlying thing, you could be a boozeologist. That would be a nice name, too.
He was taking a sip of water and you made him choke.
No, I'm thinking he doesn't like the word mixologist, so how about boozeologist?
Well, it's funny, my parents are constantly, or my family, they're constantly looking for some sort of word to label me with.
Right.
My older brother's a graphic designer, my younger brother's an architect, my sister's a biomedical engineer, and I'm a bartender.
No, you're not. You're a mixologist or a boozologist. We're going to find a word. Sharon, put your thinking cap on.
I'm looking at bottles of whiskey.
I know. But meantime, we have, you know, a myriad dads out there.
Yes.
And they're already, I'm sure, going, oh, what are they going to get me this year, because it's probably not going to be at the top of their list, but what you have brought in is definitely
it's a winner. You can't miss.
At the top of everybody's list.
I would say so, yeah.
So let's go through your offerings. What would you suggest?
What would I suggest?
You really, really, really loved your dad. A lot.
Whiskey. Yeah, so we brought in a few different Johnnie Walker labels today. Something that's, we've got sort of a bit of a range. We've got 3 different labels in here, and something that sort of is good for a few different occasions. We've got Johnnie Walker Red label, which was noted as Winston Churchill's favorite whiskey.
Yes.
He used to enjoy mixing with soda way back in the day, and this label was originally created back 1909, 1910, I believe, and it's been around for ages. I mean, it's stood the test of time, over 100 years now, and this is a great mixing whiskey. We can mix this with just about anything. There's some people mixing it in Southeast Asia with green tea or coconut.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that surprises me. Yeah.
Yeah, green tea, coconut water, things like that. Something more refreshing.
Coconut water.
Coconut water, green tea, and would you use that for whiskey sours?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really great cocktail whiskey because it has so much character and it really shines through a lot of bigger flavors. If we're going to mix it.
What other things? Is it Southern Comfort? Is it Southern? What is that drink?
Yeah, we'll put that word in the box with the mixologist.
Oh, really? What is that drink that I think it has whiskey in it?
I think it does too. Southern Comfort is.
It's a
it's
name
a
of a drink. Oh, it's a mix.
It's a liqueur. It's a bit of a liqueur with a whiskey base.
It's a bad memory from university. Move on.
Okay. No, I'm trying to think. There is a drink, and I've got the wrong name.
No, there probably is. You're not wrong. There probably is. So this guy works really very well in cocktails, and you're seeing a bit of a revival right now with whiskey highballs.
Oh yeah.
People are drinking blended Scotch with soda again. Scotch and soda is becoming a thing where they're drinking it long, drinking it with ice. It's refreshing. It's a refreshing.
So when did it go out of style? And you're saying it's back in vogue now. When did it? It was in and out, and now it's in again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Scotch and sodas were very popular. I would say anywhere between the 40s and 60s, and they sort of sloped off a little bit after that Mad Men era. You see things kind of getting.
Well, and sugar came in.
Exactly.
With sugary things, and now I think we're back to the pure flavor. But my question goes to, what differentiates a mixing Scotch whiskey from a straight up or like a more pure?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a very close friend that lives in Kentucky, and his thing that he always says is you drink whiskey the way God intended, or the way you want to drink it. You know, it's you either drink it neat or you drink it in a cocktail. Yeah. And I would say that a lot of whiskeys are very delicate. Not a lot. I would say some whiskeys are very delicate. And,
really?
Yeah, and once you get...
They're not delicate on your stomach.
But, I mean, some of the flavor nuances that exist within the liquid, and I mean, if you're going to mix a $300 bottle of whiskey with Coke, then all the power to you. That's your choice. But sometimes those flavors are very lost. If you're mixing with other big flavors, you can lose a very delicate whiskey, or a whiskey that's been aged for 25, 30 years.
Well, when I drink whiskey, I just hold my nose, and because it's too strong.
But have you been to?
It's too close to rye.
Have you been to a Scotch tasting? Ever?
No.
Okay, I never had until last year, and of all things, I was at Ward Anderson invited us to the Sharp Magazine party, and they had a tasting there, and I honestly never done, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
So rye is part of that family, right?
So whiskey would be the umbrella. Whiskey is the category.
Okay.
Within that category, rye would be a style of whiskey.
Okay,
So
and what other styles?
We would have rye, we would have bourbon, we would have Canadian whiskey, Japanese whiskey, blended Scotch whiskey.
But we're known
single
in
malt
Canada
whiskey.
for whiskey, aren't we?
We are. We produce a lot of grain in Canada. Some of the best rye whiskeys, in my opinion, in the world right now are coming out of the prairies.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Rye and I
don't get along. Right?
No, well, we had a brief affair in high school.
See, that's like my university thing.
And since then, my stomach does not want to ever see rye again.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can sort of interject on that one. Tequila's a thing has people have a lot of bad experiences with tequila, and it's because of what they're drinking and how they're drinking it. And I would love to sit down with you someday and run you through a bunch of ryes, because I guarantee that you could present it in a way that it would be approachable for you.
Do you already see this day coming? I mean, for all you listeners out there, me and a mixologist are going to spend a day running through the world of rye.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, I'm gonna video it and put it up on YouTube.
I know. And then, you know what? And then these girls will make me come in the next day, and it won't be pretty. But anyway, we are going to keep you, Jenner, if we can, to
certainly.
talk more about mixologing and boozologing and ryeologing.
And I want to ask, though, if I'm going to, and seriously, I was considering purchasing this as a gift for my father for Father's Day this weekend, so I want to know what I should be shopping for.
Absolutely.
All right.
This is what she said on Canada Talks 167 SiriusXM, and don't worry if you have coffee, you can have a little whiskey later.
Or in your coffee.
Or in your coffee.
Ooh, I'm channeling my inner parrot head listening to Jimmy Buffett on what she said.
Well, we had a chance during the break to talk to Jenner about, there seems to be sort of, certain liquors that are in style.
Well, it's just like clothes.
It's like clothes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're saying now whiskey is popular, but last year it was something else.
And bourbon's popular.
Yeah, bourbons, blended scotches, single malts, they all sort of fall into that category like we were talking about. And as I mentioned during the break, up until this past year, the most heavily consumed spirit in the United States was vodka. And that switched over this year to whiskey, which is pretty amazing because in Canada it's still vodka.
Is it still vodka in Canada?
Vodka, yeah.
It's all us girls who had a bad experience in high school.
Yeah, but,
So why don't we go through what your pick, because Sharon's looking for something for her dad. Yeah.
And you know what? You walk in to the liquor store and it's a wall of choices, and that I find intimidating.
It is. It's overwhelming, especially depending on which LCBO you're visiting.
Yeah.
There's a few that are. It takes me a few minutes to get through some of those.
Some of them, like, you can literally stand there for days.
Yeah.
So Sharon, let's find out. Does your dad like to just have it neat?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the other whiskeys that we brought in today is Johnnie Walker Black Label. This, in my mind, this is one of the most special whiskeys. And I'm not just saying that because it's sitting in front of me. It's one of the most special whiskeys that you could buy as a consumer or as somebody who wants a whiskey to put on your shelf that is approachable for everyone. You can put it in cocktails. You can drink it neat. You can drink it with ice.
Is it for a connoisseur, though?
So let me get into a little bit of the background on Black Label. The gentleman who creates Johnnie Walker at this moment, his name is Jim Beveridge.
Oh, that's a perfect
That's
name.
his real
Well,
name.
that's not his real name. It can't be. It
It's
can't
on
be.
the bottles.
That's
He
perfect.
signs his name. His name's Jim Beveridge, and he's been making Johnnie Walker for about 34 years. And I would go as far as saying he's got one of the most sophisticated evolved palates on the planet. This guy is responsible for one of the largest brands of whiskey in the world, if not the largest brand. And so, Black Label is a 12-year-old Scotch, and it's blended Scotch, pardon me, and it's a little smokier than its younger brother, which is Red Label. And what they did a little experiment with Black Label. They took 12 sommeliers and put them in a room. It sounds like a lead up to a really bad joke.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. 12 sommeliers in a room.
So they took 12 sommeliers, plopped them in a room, and put 3 glasses of whiskey in front of them. And they didn't tell them what it was. They put one glass was neat, was served on its own. One glass was served with ice, and the last one was served with water. And they asked these sommeliers to write down what they were pulling out of the whiskey and try to give an educated guess on what it was. Not a single person in that room got the answer correct.
Really?
And each of the glasses that were in front of these people was Black Label.
That's interesting.
Served 3 different ways, but none of them were able to pull out that it was the same whiskey 3 times.
So is that a good thing?
It's extremely diverse, and that's what I was saying
Yeah,
before.
so the different serving pulls out different characteristics in the drink.
Exactly.
So that, I think,
That's
Sharon,
great.
that's the one for you,
It's
for your dad.
very diverse, and that's why I was saying if you could have one to put on your shelf and one to rely on, if somebody comes over and wants some sort
It's
of
a
whiskey
winner.
to drink, this is the guy.
So how many mixed drinks can you use whiskey for? I mean, besides just plain, for those who want it neat, like, let's say they have a girlfriend or a wife who doesn't want to drink it neat. Can you still use it for something, for drinks? Like what?
Absolutely. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of whiskey cocktails that you can bend this
Really?
Scotch into. Absolutely. It's just a matter of figuring out what you want to drink and how you want to drink it.
Now,
what you wanna mix it
Jenna,
with.
when I'm standing in front of that wall, though, and okay, now I'm going to get that kind, but standing in front of the wall, and you're thinking, okay, what can I base it on? The color of the bottle, the name, or there are some there that are $39 and some that are $339. Like, what makes the difference between a high, a mid, and a low-priced Scotch or whiskey?
It can become very deceiving, and in my mind, it's difficult to choose the right whiskey, especially when you're standing in front of a wall like that. And a lot of times, people are going to gravitate towards the older whiskeys. In their mind, age denotes quality.
And so, what difference does age make?
Age is going to change the profile of the whiskey itself. It's also going to change the price tag. You're paying more money for older whiskeys because it takes more time to age them, but age isn't always correlated with quality in my mind.
So that's interesting.
So you have to be careful. There's a lot of whiskeys that anywhere past 15, I find anywhere between 12 to 15 or 15 to 17 years is kind of the sweet spot. Anything after that, it takes a very, very qualified or talented whiskey maker to be making quality whiskey after that point.
So you're basically paying for bragging rights.
More or less. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not putting anyone under the table because there are some fantastic whiskeys that I've tried that are over 25, 35 years old, but it's very limited.
But in that 12 to 17 year range, you're getting a good quality.
For single malts and blended scotches, that's sort of the sweet spot in my mind. American whiskeys, it tends to be a lot younger because of the aging method. They're using newer barrels. There's more character that comes out of the barrels, so anywhere between 4 to 10 years with American whiskeys, rye, bourbons, things like that. That's sort of your sweet spot in my mind. Anything past that, it gets too woody. You can't really taste it.
See,
so.
this is good information. I will spend less time in front of the wall.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of narrow it down pretty quickly if you look at the age, look at the price points, and then sort of read up on what you're looking for. I mean, it's tough because you do have to do a little bit of research if you're walking into a liquor store and you don't know what you want.
But now I know I'm going to get the black label, and I know it's good.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's fascinating to me is who actually sort of dominates this market? Canada, the U.S., but you're saying...
For production-wise?
Yeah, you're saying...
Japan.
Japan?
India.
Really? See that?
India.
These surprised me.
This surprise. Yeah, I had no idea.
Japan is making some of the best single malt whiskey on the planet right now, hands down. Like Scotland has always been leading the way, and the climate that exists in Scotland versus in India and versus in Japan are totally different. So what's going to happen is even though they're using the same ingredients, going through the same process, it's going to produce a much different whiskey.
It's going to bring out different tones.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
Very fascinating.
Yeah.
See, I want to have a tasting at my place and get all these different kinds.
I don't even know if we can buy... Can you buy Indian whiskey and Japanese whiskey here?
At the LCBO, yeah.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, there's a few bottlings that are released right now that exist at the LCBO that are fantastic. I was pleasantly surprised to taste some Indian single malts a few months ago, and I was very interested because they're really good.
So
Really?
would most bars stock them, or do most bars sort of stay with what they know?
At the moment, no. You won't see very many Indian whiskeys on a shelf. You will see a lot of Japanese malts.
Really?
On back bars, yeah.
Now,
Interesting.
I've got a question now that perhaps it's a stupid question, but if you buy a bottle and you're not a big drinker at home, and 8 years from now, 3/4 of the bottle is still there, does that change the quality? Does it expire?
It's going to take I mean, there's no stupid questions when it comes to whiskey, we'll put it that way, but it definitely, as soon as you crack the seal and open the bottle and let some oxygen into the bottle, the whiskey's going to change. Depending on how far through the bottle you get, that whiskey's going to change more and more. Yeah. So my rule is, I mean, if you're getting down past halfway, it's going to take years for that whiskey to go bad. Like years.
I had an experience with some overproof rum that was sitting there for, I think, 15 years.
Wow.
And I made rum balls with it. And they were lethal.
They had 15 years to ferment.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. It was, wow.
Yeah, once the liquid goes in the bottle, the aging process stops. So anything that's supposed to happen happens before it lands in the bottle.
But there's enough alcohol and sugar in it that
it'll keep for forever. I mean, I had I had a cocktail made for me. I'm so lucky. I had a cocktail made for me in London last year by a gentleman named Salvatore Calabresi, and he pulled out a bottle of whiskey that was bottled in 1863.
Oh my gosh.
1863.
1863.
And he made me a cocktail with it.
Wow.
Now I wonder how much that bottle would be worth.
There was 2 ounces in the drink, and the cocktail was worth 5,000 pounds.
Pounds.
Yeah.
That's $10,000.
Yeah.
For 2 ounces.
And how awesome was it?
What did you have to do? Dance on the bar for that?
No, I was with a few friends of mine that were from the States, and one of the guys we were with had just won an international bartending competition. So.
Oh,
yeah.
That.
Now there's a once in a lifetime experience.
That would be completely wasted on me.
Well, it was rye, so you wouldn't have liked it anyway.
No,
yeah.
I would not.
And when it comes to these, I know I have some beautiful crystal decanters, and sometimes I like to put spirits in there. Does that make a difference? Does it change things?
No, I mean, visually it looks beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's why I like it.
Yeah, and as long as they're airtight, I don't think you should have a problem.
Yeah, I have a one in particular cut crystal. It's gorgeous.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now we should mention that Johnnie Walker is launching a contest on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like it. There's a
Yeah,
trip to,
and the lucky
golf
winner
course.
is going to
Yeah.
visit Cabot Links, named the most eagerly anticipated golf course in Canada by Brian Kendall of
The Globe and Mail. Yeah.
And so entrants are asked to share a photo with their dads
Mm-hmm.
using the hashtag Raise a Glass to Dad.
Wow.
That's a good
And-
hashtag. Raise a glass to dad.
Yeah.
And contest winners are going to be announced today. So you better get that
Get the picture.
Get going.
get that picture in. Oh my goodness.
Hi, what a great thing, though.
I
That's
wish we'd known
fantastic.
about this a little sooner.
Well, but you can still get your
You
dad.
can still, absolutely.
You know, and then you can raise a glass with dad.
Yeah.
And
With
then-
dad.
And everybody's a winner.
Everybody's a winner.
I think
Yeah,
so.
take him golfing and buy him some whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, it's funny. Everybody goes, "We're getting your dad a tie for Father's." You know what? My dad's been retired for 20 years. And a tie's not going to cut it for him.
No.
And you know, it's usually there's a very special beverage, like a drink,
Mhm.
or books. But I mean, you can't beat having that really, because he's never going to go buy that nice bottle for himself.
Mhm.
And I
No.
think most of us would be guilty of that. It's kind of an indulgence. You want to have it at home. It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But what a great gift, because not everyone will go and spend that on themselves that way.
No, and it's funny that you mentioned celebrating and gifts. The gold label that we brought in today, Johnnie Walker Gold Label Reserve, is nicknamed the Celebration Blend.
Really?
Yes,
And it looks
is.
great.
It's
Why?
beautiful. It was something that sort of stuck with it quite a while ago. This bottling's been around for quite a few years now, and recently they re-released it. It had an age statement on it before, which we were talking about. Is the age that's put on a bottle that denotes the youngest age of whiskey that exists in that bottle. So they removed
Okay.
they removed the age statement so that they were able to paint with more colors. Essentially, they were able to use more whiskeys in the blend.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to blending these whiskeys, there's about 8 million barrels that they're able to select from in Scotland, aging
Oh my gosh.
at this moment right now.
So
That's a lot of barrels.
this is the preferred one for gift giving?
I would say so. I mean,
So Sharon, you might have to change your mind.
I know.
You went from black, you may have to go to gold.
I might buy one of each and keep one.
well, there you go. But I mean, like we talked about before, it's all about the right tool for the right project.
You know, the funny thing about whiskey, too, is it doesn't matter if it's your dad or if it's your son. You know, it's universal. There isn't a demographic for the taste.
Mhm.
No,
You know, it
That's
appeals
right.
to
Oh.
it appeals across the board
Yeah.
to many generations. So
and
that's great.
genders as well. I mean, you see a lot of women gravitating towards
Oh, yeah.
whiskeys now, which
Absolutely.
is fantastic.
Well, you know,
I'm gonna-
having tastings is the way to go, because
Yeah.
it's educational.
Absolutely.
So if people want to learn more, follow what you do, you're on Twitter and everything,
I
right?
am Twitter, Instagram, all that fun
And
stuff.
do you have a website?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Okay,
yet.
Twitter and Instagram.
And yeah, Facebook, and it's Jenner Cormier. And thank you so much
my
for
pleasure.
coming and sharing. And we're going to get Christine to a tasting one of these days.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Click the channel subscribe button for full-length interviews and more from What She Said here on YouTube.